Alright, TNA. Now, before we get started, which is the second time I've done this, I keep screwing up sometimes, we have to address something interesting. I wanted to make sure there wasn't some interesting news I could add to this video. So I went to a couple of the sites. I went to about 3 or 4 sites. I think 4. I can't remember. I think I went to 4 sites. And the one that gave me the most information was NoDQ.com. And there was an article there. Well, a couple of articles. One article was talking about Scott D'Amore. Another article was about this, that I can't remember who the one who wrote the article. And I'll probably leave the link below so you can look at it yourself. It said, TNA, the best kept secret of pro wrestling. And I looked it over, actually, while the commercial was going on this week's TNA, I was looking. And I saw what the person talked about when it came to TNA. That what's going on with WWE and AEW, WWE really hasn't changed much of its style. It's just the booking's a bit better. AEW really hasn't changed dramatically, particularly what's been going on without Cody and what happened without CM Punk. And also that person talked about how bloated both rosters are. WWE, well, TKO, WWE, and AEW. And he wanted to put over more of TNA. He wanted to say that TNA was an alternative, taking a little bit of what WWE has, and that was in the article, and maybe also taking a little bit of what AEW had. And talking about how this company is a best kept secret. It's been giving good, very decent performance and as well good entertainment. Now, I can only say this, and this is what I got to say to people who know me, people who've seen me for years. I've always told you guys the truth. I have not lied about it. I am not trying to say I hate TNA or Impact Wrestling at the time. I've always been honest about how their camera work was, how their production was, how their character development for the wrestlers, the problems they had with their wrestlers because they don't stay long enough because, well, most of the time, or like 70 or 80% of the time, they just paid them to come in to do tapings. I've talked about that. And I will agree to parts of this article, but the rest I will not. Because let's make this very clear. As I left a message to somebody, I asked them, and you know who you are, you always leave me the sonnet. I always say, what is TNA really gaining from dealing with NXT? What will they get when this collaboration ends? What happened if TNA wasn't working with NXT? What would we really have? And the guy, he said, in a very long message, we would get the same thing. It's just not as well publicized. It wouldn't be as widespread as it is. Well, there's your problem. No matter how much you want to say that TNA is a better product, one of the major issues it has is accessibility. That's the truth. Accessibility has always been its Achilles heel. The other one is, truthfully, the product has not been good. No matter how much you want to hear and you see people say on the comments, if you say it, they say, TNA has gotten great. Look, all the arenas are beginning to sell out. Listen to me. AEW has a major issue. They can sell out arenas when the pay-per-views happen. To near almost all of it. Now, mind you, what happened in All In, the arenas went down from 70 to 50, nearing 60, I think. That happens. I'm not surprised. But when it comes to the regular shows that we watch, WWE had the same major problem before AEW appeared. They could not fill the damn arenas. It's not just because Tony is trying to get 20,000 seat arenas. This is not about that. There is something missing in the formula of AEW, just like with WWE. And yes, TNA now is beginning to sell out arenas. But one thing I've said that is still on record is that the very people who basically booked the thing, including their new president, because Scott D'Amore's not there anymore, were complaining that the ratings did not reflect all the work they've been doing and with TNA, dealing with NXT. If the ratings don't reflect what's going on, it don't make a difference how much they're selling out arenas. The ratings still mean something to these companies, particularly that TNA is a satellite company. It's not a wrestling promotion anymore. Just like TKO WWE. I call it that because WWE is a satellite company, part of TKO Group Holdings, which is a part of Endeavor. It makes no difference how much you say, dude, you don't get it. Yes, I do. They're not promotions. They're satellite companies. And the companies want to see ratings. That's how they get renegotiated contracts. And yes, Anthem owns Access TV. So they can renegotiate the contracts easily because it's from the same parent company. Access TV is a satellite company just like TNA is. But still, if the ratings don't reflect, it makes no difference how much they're selling out arenas. They got to mean something like, here, look where my hands are. Look, I'm shaking this because people on the other side are the ones that's giving us more money than the people in the stands of those arenas. If your ratings are not great, this is what you're going to be dealing with. So half of what he talked about in that article, I don't agree with. The other half I do, because I'm not against TNA. I still believe they need to tweak their product more. They need to work more and do something better with the creative. When it comes to production, they still need to work on it. But creative is the key. Now, let's move on because I've taken almost 6 minutes with this. I hope you guys understand. Opening, Macklin versus Hammerstone. Let's make this clear. This was not about the match itself. Look, Hammerstone didn't win an emergence, and he went to NXT, went up against Umafemi, and it was an okay match, but he got his clock cleaned heavily by Umafemi. He did. And I know someone said below in one of the other videos, hey, Hammerstone tried in 2015 and again in 16 to go to WWE, but they never signed him. Well, fine. But I'm thinking about him in MLW. I'm thinking about how many years he was champ in MLW and how prominent he was. And I was excited to see him come to TNA. But unfortunately, they didn't really do much with him at first. He got injured, came back, and they're still not doing a lot with him unless they're going to do something now, working him with a Jake Something. Because after the match is over, Jake Something came out along with Eric Young, who basically saved Macklin, but Jake Something came out as well. Hammerstone looked at him, they looked at each other up, and they both kind of agreed, those two bitches in the ring, we're going to make them on meat. That's the way it kind of looked to me. That might be interesting. A temporary alliance and a temporary tag matches with Hammerstone and Jake Something, two of the biggest monsters in there. It might work, but it's going to depend. Well, the botch means I'm not sure how they're going to book Hammerstone, how they're going to book Jake Something, who is going to have to be destroyed to make them both look good. Or are they going to get people from outside to job for them? Or are you going to use the small roster you have right now, where a lot of times you job people too much and it doesn't look good? That's what we're going to get. Next, we get Heather Reckless versus Gazelle Shaw, which this could be her last match. Because I don't know if she's going, I don't think she's going to be an emergence, but I have not checked the website to see if she has a match. So as far as I know right now, I can check after this, which I probably will. Because, not emergence, I mean Victory Road. I'm sorry, I got emergence and Victory Road mixed up. Sorry. But at the pay-per-view, I don't know if she's got a match, but I'm going to actually look after I finish this and then upload it. You see what's going on. But this could be the last match. And I had a feeling there was going to be some type of screwy ending because it needed to, because notoriously with Impact and TNA, anybody who leaves, they usually job out to somebody and then they look destroyed when they do it. But we really didn't get that. I thought we were, and I will be getting to Ash as well as Xia Brookside's match next. But the match between, let me give it to you like this. Gazelle's always had a good style. I've never been against Gazelle. Did I always like her booking? No. But I always felt that she was a very decent wrestler that looked very well, and with charisma that she has, wasn't bad. But when you look at this match here, and she showed her charisma, but her style seemed to have to be cranked back a bit, because when you look at Heather, she's a much more smaller statured wrestler. And it was a little more difficult for her to keep up with a Gazelle Shaw because she's a much bigger woman. She's much stronger. That's what you get. Now, of course, Ash in the Concierge comes out. Ash messes with, well, do I believe that Ash should have been the one who did the messing more than the Concierge? Yes, but it's the Concierge. He's going to do what he's going to do. And pretty much both of them messed. Thinking that this is a possible last match, Gazelle Shaw, is kind of sad. Because I got used to seeing her there after 3 years. She's really has earned her right to be in that roster. She has. For me personally, I'm not a big fan of her, but I do believe she's done a very good job. Look, I'm not against anybody who's trans. I rarely say what she is. I don't need to, because just like with Nia Rose in AEW, I don't care what you are. Just book them correctly, and that's all that matters. And I can say easily, her transness has never been an issue. It's always been her booking. They never went there with her being a trans woman. And I'm actually glad about that, because for all the years she's worked there, she made her own character. She was a quintessential diva. She earned it. She proved it. And even if you didn't like her per se, it didn't matter that she was trans. It just mattered that she wasn't booked correctly. Sometimes she boxed in the ring. That's all that mattered. And that's the best thing that I liked about her. None of that craziness that's been going on outside in the world mattered here. I don't normally bring this up because it doesn't matter. I care about if you do your job. You're a wrestler. I don't care whatever you are. Do your job and make me care either to hate your ass, to like you, or somewhere in between. And I'm like in between. There you go. Now next, I'm going to skip the rematch in the tornado tag. I am now going to Ash of Elegance versus Xia Brookstein. This is a good one. Not because the match was great. It's because certain things happened here that needed to happen. The one thing I felt that was the best thing, because it really helped the match the most, was Ash herself. Look, guys, Ash of Elegance has always had a major issue. And while she's been on the roster, I've never talked about sexualizing a woman. I mean, look, she got a great pair of tits. There ain't no lie about it. She got some titty. She looked good. She got curves. She's pretty in the face. She got a nice ass. But one of the major problems in the ring is that it shouldn't be a hindrance, your body shape and your sexuality. You can show sexuality as long as it works with your character, and if it's going to be like some women, they'll whack another woman in the face with their ass, or they'll do a titty like titty rub like what happened with ODB. It's part of your character. The problem with Ash was that her ring attire was an issue. She never wore a brace across her chest, where majority of every match she ever did, she wore the same type of top that literally didn't have a brace to hold her chest in place. The girl's maybe a double D or D. And one of the major problems she had while she was working was to readjust her bra strap constantly, because there was no brace here, and her titties kept tending to move around and almost pop out of her top. That was her major issue. Here, she wore a new top that had a brace right here with a ring in it, and I'm going at, finally, yes, this is what she needed to do. We don't have to worry about her going like that all the time. That was one of the major things that was a nuisance for her, that she couldn't do her moves quickly enough. And for other people, I'm not saying that people didn't like seeing them. I'm not going to say I didn't, but as a reviewer, I want to see her wrestle. I want to see her use her charisma, her heelness. But if she's doing this all the time, it's a distraction. So now the distraction is gone, at least in this episode. And we just got Ash doing her work. I will never tell you that Ash is one of the best wrestlers, because she's not. She's always been an average to sometimes above average wrestler, which is fine. I did not expect Ash to job, but I didn't expect her to be beaten easily by Xia, because I wasn't sure where they're going to actually go, what happened with when it came to Heather, because of what she did earlier in the night when she helped her with a Gazelle Shaw. And guess what? Heather came out and helped her to get the win. And you see at the end her going up the ring, going, woo! I'm going like, girl, why, girl? Why? Why was she acting so silly? And I'm going like, really? But it was okay, because that's some of the quirkiness of a Ash of Elegance. And what do we get? We got Ash later with the concierge with a Heather, and she said she kind of liked her. The concierge gave her his card saying, you need to change your clothing. If you want to have a better type of look, call the concierge. So now, we now see Heather deciding to be a heel. At least for the moment. I don't know where they're going to go with her, but I'm not saying it's bad. But I'm not going to lie here. I was expecting Ash to destroy Gazelle Shaw, so when she's gone, no one's going to notice. But still, I don't know if there's going to be more recordings of Ash against Gazelle Shaw. This could be the last match for her, or we'll see a couple of more after this. I just don't know. Moving on. Tornado Tag. We got First Class versus ABC. No title on the line. That's tomorrow. ABC versus The System. I'm not going to say the match was bad. It actually wasn't too bad. AJ Francis hasn't done a lot of those type of outside moves that he normally does. And I'm kind of glad he's not been doing that. Because one of the major reasons he was basically ridiculed in WWE before they did the merger was that when he tried to do that forward flip out of the ring, unlike when it comes to Angelo Dawkins, that boy can fly. When you look at AJ Francis, he doesn't do that. He can't fly. He looked way too cumbersome to do a type of style like that. And when he does that roll outside, it's not, I'm not saying that he can't do it, but he made it look like he hurt himself. And that's why he was chewed out for so long and teased and horribly ridiculed. So far, he's not done that. And his partner, I keep forgetting his name until I know his name. What is it? Rivero? Or Navarro. Sorry, Navarro. I believe that's his name. Kevin Navarro, I believe. I like him. He's got charisma. He's not a bad wrestler. But I think what will get him over the most won't be his ring work. It will be his character and his charisma. That's what I think is the best about him. Of course, ABC won. There's no way they were going to lose to them, particularly before the system was going to be there. It would be a three-way, and they're not announcing or even touting it, I believe. So, it was what it was. Now, let's get to some of the stuff in the back. Xia Li's video package was done pretty well. But the thing is, I don't believe it was done by TNA. I don't know. I could be wrong. I do not believe that was done by TNA. I think that was courtesy from NXT. I think that video package, that small video package of her talking Chinese, was not done by TNA Wrestling. I do not believe they produced that. I believe that came from NXT. I truly do believe that. So you could see the style is different. Yes, it was fire there. There was her not showing her face. Her having that fan. But I do believe they did not produce it. And it kind of shows because it was actually quite well done. But it was in the style of NXT. So I think they're kind of doing doing a little bit of work for each other. At least as far as I can tell. Them doing it for TNA. So I'll give it that. Now, let me say this. When it came to PCO, Matt Cardona, and the Steph DeLander, I care enough. Before the announcement last week of that contract, I didn't give two shits about Matt Cardona dealing with Steph DeLander because there was nothing holding him there. She got married. He said that's his property. It made no sense. He should have stopped the marriage before it happened like every other wedding segment and storyline. But he didn't do it. By him saying we got a contract that was more than nearly a year old, that was the only thing that saved it. Because I was going to shit on it every single time I saw it. But we got them coming out. He was talking about the match that's going to have a victory road. That he's injured, but he's just barely managed to recover. And now he's having a tag match where you're going to have Rhino and PCO up against him and his partner of his choice. And he said it's unfair, but you know what? I'm going to go into the back and I'm going to find the most aggressive and monstrous person. And that person is, and I thought it was Khan, Steph DeLander. And I'm like, really? Steph DeLander is going to be dealing with Rhino and PCO. Steph DeLander is going to have to fight against PCO, her husband. And as I said before, this, I believe, is going to boil down to a match at Bound for Glory, and it's going to be about a contract. It's going to be about that contract. That's what I believe this is ending up to, because there's not going to be any more TNA Plus shows until Bound for Glory. They're going to build this to Bound for Glory. And yes, PCO came out. You got Matt putting Steph DeLander in front of him. She gives him a nut shot with her leg, and he gets chokeslam. Fine, okay. But this is still time that this is only about that damn contract. They have to make a match about the contract and PCO getting that contract. Or if they don't do this, this makes no sense. This is what I believe is going to happen. I am doing a little foresighting if I'm right. PCO and Steph DeLander are going to eventually approach a Macedon and say this. Look, we want to end this. I want that contract torn up. I want it gone. And he says, and how that's going to happen? It ain't going to happen. And she says, there is a way. At Bound for Glory, you versus PCO. If he wins, you null and void that contract. And he says, fine, but what am I going to get? I'll divorce PCO. That is the best way to end it. But you guys tell me below. Let's move on. Let me see. Am I forgetting anything? Yes. Josh with Joe Henry. That video was... I'm not going to say it was totally hilarious, but it was a bit funny. Talking about Josh Alexander does a smile. Josh Alexander is so angry. Josh Alexander is pretty much the walking wiener. Now that was good. Someone in the crowd had walking wiener on a poster. And I'm like, I actually got sore throat a little bit today. Sorry. The walking wiener. I may just call that. That might be the title of this. The walking wiener. I have to do it. Because up to that point, the talks were fine. That Joe Henry was, I made everybody believe in me. But Josh made it clear that I should have gone to NXT and been breaking bones and showing how great TNA wrestlers are. But you as a joke are been doing what you do. I'm going to prove that you are nothing. And then when the walking wiener came up, I'm going like, brother, what? It's not the most stupidest thing I've ever heard, but it is funny. The walking wiener, for other people to be laughing about it, but the walking wiener, I'm sorry, I was laughing. I enjoyed it. Walking wiener, ha ha ha. I may do that for the title. That might be the title. Walking wiener, ha ha ha. But I am interested in seeing where they're going to go, not at Victory Road, but at Bound for Glory. What are they going to do differently than they normally been doing with Josh Alexander and Joe Henry? It's got to culminate at Bound for Glory, because this means nothing, Victory Road. It's just a TNA Plus show. The build to Bound for Glory needs to start now. And what are we getting between these two people? I don't know. Let me see here. Okay. Ariana Grace talking to pretty much Jordan Grace. She wanted to make it very clear as the liaison between TNA and NXT. She's fine with it. She has no problem. She's happy to welcome anybody there. But when it comes to Wendy Chu, who is now going to be up against her here, I'm like, okay, Wendy's coming. I like Wendy. I've always liked Wendy Chu. She was unique. But the question here is, as much as like Wendy, and I don't think she's going to win at Victory Road. I'm kind of doing a little preview here. I don't think she will win, but I'm looking for Bound for Glory. I'm looking at if there's another open challenge and it's at Bound for Glory, I'm hoping beyond anything that there's one person that Jordan Grace goes up against. And I truly believe that Natalya would be the best person to go to TNA and Bound for Glory. I'm hoping they do that. I know everyone's going to say, she's not the best wrestler there, dude. She's not the most charismatic wrestler. She's not this. She's not that. Fine. I know she's not. But she's been on the roster longer than anyone currently. She's known by Guinness Book of World Records having the most amount of matches on a episodic television, on television, period. More than anyone, not counting what's going on in the indies, just what's been on national and international television. Everyone can see it. She's been there for decades. And I'm telling you now, it would make the best sense to let Natalya go to Bound for Glory and face Jordynne Grace. I would not have a problem with it because I believe that would be the wisest thing. I don't want to see Charlotte Flair there. Yeah, you could use Charlotte. You can use Bayley. You can use, I'm not going to say they're going to send Rhea Ripley. She's too popular. And I do not believe TKO WWE is going to sacrifice anybody there. But Natalya has been on NXT multiple times. That's why I'm saying her. But that's just me. Final match. If I'm forgetting anything, just leave a comment below. Ask me what I'm forgetting. Because I'm sure I might forget something. We got the Hardys versus the System. Now, when you see the System, and you see that Santana made it very clear, along with the vid pack of Santana, along with Nick Nimitz. They both were pretty good. I didn't have a problem with Nick Nimitz talking about Moose and how he's ready to face him again. It wasn't bad. Santana's was better because he made it very clear he's hoping Nick does not win and he gets his hands on Moose, who is now or would be the world champion. He wants him. So I thought that was a little more effective than Nick's, which was pretty generic, pretty formulaic. And this match was pretty formulaic. It was the Hardys versus the System. I didn't think the System was going to win. If they did win, yeah, that would be a little extra for them. But you want to show the System still being weak. So the best option would be to use the Hardys to do that. And since Matt and Jeff just came back on TV again, I truly believe they needed to win. And that's how I feel about it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. What are we actually getting from Matt and Jeff Hardy? I don't know. But I'm kind of hoping that we will allow them one more run with the titles that could culminate at Bound for Glory. I'm not saying they should. It just feels like they could. I'm not saying they will. But wouldn't it be good if they could go there? I don't think they will do it because there won't be enough time to set it up. But that's just me. So I would tell you this was a good show. Not going to say it's bad. Some camera angles looked a little weird. Like they wanted to make it important, but they didn't do somewhat of a zoom in to really focus on people a little bit better. They just kept doing side angles like this. And that kind of was offsetting for me personally. But it doesn't mean you couldn't see what's in the ring. And that was the most important thing. Seeing the people in the ring is the most important thing. And I will say they did a very good job here. The lighting was good. Audio's always still been an issue with the fans. You never really get to hear them really loud when they're being loud when it comes to a TNA or Impact ring. So, it was okay. But it's just me. The walking Wiener.